All right, I think that worked. Excellent. I think we're live. Boom. I got to stop doing that. I got to stop saying like, oh, I think that worked. It's technology and I'm an old soul, so like I got to figure it out. I don't know. All right, we are live. It is week 5. It's week 5. Good Lord, we're almost halfway done with the college football season. I can't believe it. I got to find some links here and see if where are we? Are we on the right thing here? Huh. All right. Well, anyway, we are talking about some week 4 madness and some week 5 picks, and it's going to be a shorter show for you guys tonight because the last one went on way too long, and I want to fix that. Not necessarily fix that, I just want to get it a little bit more streamlined, but also because I'm tired and I waited way too long to start streaming tonight. So I'm going to grab a sip of water here. You guys can see my elbow. That's going to be great. Excellent. We are now properly hydrated and ready to go. Coming at you tonight with 2 monitors, which is excellent. I've got my monitor over here so I can keep an eye on the stream, make sure we're all good, make sure, you know, all of my 0 subscribers don't start a war in the comment section, which is never a good thing. I'm going to adjust my mic because I've got a brand new setup here too. Got a brand new desk, which is awesome. My dad made it, so shout out to Dad and all of the fine work you do at Team Rivalry. All right, so we're going to talk some week 5 picks, but first we're going to address something, and we're going to address something rather important. Okay, so I want to take you in a time machine back to, I don't know, let's call it week 3 of the college football season. No, let's call it almost week 4. Let's say it is Friday, the Friday before week 4, right? Okay, so hang with me here for a second. The Friday before week 4, we were looking at the Big Ten, like Ohio State's kind of in trouble. What happened to Wisconsin? Michigan looks kind of good. That's where we were. That's where we were the Friday before week 4. Now where are we? We are Akron at one point in the game against Ohio State had the lead. That is an actual thing that occurred. Akron had the lead. I don't care how long it lasted. It happened, and it will forever be there. There you go. Who was the second team? Wisconsin didn't look so good. Completely and totally imploded against Notre Dame. And everybody keeps saying, like, oh, you can't look at the final score because that doesn't give you the indication of the entire game. Well, last I checked, a football game is 4 quarters, is it not? Is a football game not 4 15-minute quarters? Because I'm pretty sure that what happens in, I don't know, let's say the last 12 minutes, 30 seconds or so of a football game still counts as part of the football game. I keep looking at myself in the thing here. I gotta bring up a page so I can look at something else and not get distracted by myself. But okay, so forgive me if I'm a little confused, let's just say, because I thought that when Wisconsin was playing Notre Dame in the 4th quarter of that football game, that what happened in the 4th quarter still mattered. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a 1-score game. Wisconsin was leading in the 4th quarter and then completely and totally fell apart. That's my cell phone. I'm going to put that on silent. Nope. And the reason I bring that up is because, as you can see from the flag behind me, except for the shirt I'm wearing, I went the wrong way. I'm repping my alma mater, Western Michigan. Go Broncos. My Broncos are 3-1. Obviously, the only loss against these guys. I was at that game, too. That was a fun game. Dad got me tickets. My dad still gives me tickets to football games. It's awesome. Yeah, repping my Broncos. What was I saying? So the reason I bring up Wisconsin, though, is because I'm seeing some things going on in the Michigan message boards, right? And by Michigan message boards, I mean all of the various college football channels that I follow on YouTube, and the Michigan Insider channels, and 247 Michigan channel, and the Voice of College Football with Mark Rogers, and then this guy Steve Dace, who does the Michigan podcast. things are starting to happen on those message boards. Things that don't, things that happen a lot. These types of things happen. They happen a lot, and the reason they happen a lot is because I think Michigan fans really like to be unhappy. So I'm not going to keep you on the edge of your seat any longer. I'll just tell you what happened. Michigan suffered a really bad second half to Rutgers. If you didn't watch the game, Michigan was up 20-3 at the end of the first half. The final score of the football game was 20-13. I'm not about to defend Michigan's second half. I'm not about to say that, they're totally going to be fine. They have no problems whatsoever. They clearly have problems. I don't think that they're nearly as bad as what people are saying. And I'm about to refute everything that you've ever heard about Rutgers at this point and everything that they're saying about Michigan. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I'm really frustrated with Michigan fans today. I really, really am. I'm really frustrated that we went from 63-10 against Northern Illinois. Everybody's like, watch out for Michigan. Michigan looks good. And then they take on a team, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I don't have the best memory or anything like that. So I won't pretend to be a know-it-all or anything like that. But last I checked, when Rutgers went in to the Big House, just before that game ended, Rutgers was 3-0, right? 3-0. Now I understand they're still Rutgers, and so a lot of people are hung up on that. Well, it's Rutgers. I mean, come on, Rutgers sucks. Come on, man. Let's put another name on that. Let's say Ohio State's 3-0 and they come to the Big House. Now that wouldn't happen because they play Michigan at the end of the season. But let's say Ohio State's 3-0, they come to the Big House. What are you saying now? 20-13 don't look so bad, do it? 20-13. I don't care if Michigan didn't put any points on the board in the second half against Ohio State. You're ecstatic. All right? You're ecstatic. So all you have to do there is change your perspective a little bit. Now, but it's Rutgers. Rutgers sucks. No, Rutgers actually doesn't suck. And I'm going to point that out real quick. All right? But here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to take you on a little, let's call it a rabbit trail. Because that's what this is going to be for me to make my point. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to read you some stats. Because this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to read you some stats of a football team. I'm not going to tell you who the football team is. I'm not going to tell you what conference they're in. I'm just going to tell you that they're not in the Big Ten so that I can do some things for comparison's sake. And here are the stats. Let me get to this. All right. Points per game. This team scores 30.5 points per game. It's not bad. That's not bad. And actually, for comparison's sake, I was supposed to bring up the Big Ten statistics, but I forgot to do that. Let's see. Nope, not all conferences, just Big Ten. Thank you. All right, so why didn't they give me averages? That kind of sucks. Tell you what, these people are dumb. Yeah, I really should have figured that out, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. This team scores 30.5 points per game. Now, in comparison's sake, let's look at Ohio State, just for kicks. Right now, Ohio State's scoring 43 points per game. That's good. It's pretty good. Indiana's scoring 30. Penn State's scoring 30. Penn State's scoring 31, whatever, I don't care. Michigan State's scoring 35. Northwestern scoring 25, Nebraska scoring 27, Wisconsin scoring 19, so there's that. So, this team's 30 points per game, 30.5, puts them, pretty much in the middle. If you're looking at Illinois at 20, Minnesota at 25, Purdue at 26, Iowa 28, Maryland 37. This 30.5 points per game puts this team pretty much in the middle of the pack of the Big Ten. They would be, I would say, probably a top 7 team in the Big Ten, which I understand is just north of 50%, but there are 7 other teams in the Big Ten that are worse than that, so I don't care. That said, this team is only allowing 17.8 points per game. For comparison's sake, Wisconsin's allowing 21. Northwestern's allowing 20. Nebraska's actually only allowing 17, so good job to them. Michigan State only 18, good job to them, but sorry, this team is actually still better than that. Indiana is allowing 30 points per game. Penn State, great job with their 15 points per game. Oh, Ohio State's allowing 23 points per game. Man, oh man. So again, towards the middle of the pack. Illinois, 26 points per game allowed. Iowa and Maryland both at 11 and 14. So, you know, one of the better defenses at 17 points per game. That's not bad. I mean, it's better than Ohio State right now. Total yards per game, 392. So they're putting up almost 400 yards of offense a game. Michigan's putting up 450. Wisconsin, 400. Northwestern, 388. Nebraska, 473. Western Kentucky, 507. Michigan State, 453. So they're on par with these teams. Indiana, 363. This team puts up almost 400 yards of offense, which is a pretty average thing for the Big Ten right now. Minnesota, 344. Purdue, 406, right around the 400 range. Illinois, 343. So they would be an average team in the Big Ten in terms of offensive production. They're better than Iowa. And Iowa is 4-0 and number 5. Yards allowed per game, 261. For context, Wisconsin's allowing 212. There's a disparity. Not that big, though. Ohio State is allowing 262. And the point I'm trying to make here is that this team that I'm reading their stats off, you're comparing them to Ohio State. If they were Ohio State, you'd be like, well, but Ohio State's Ohio State. You know, they're going to beat everybody. They're always amazing and just awesome, and everything Ohio State does is just great and amazing and awesome, whatever. The thing is, though, is that they're putting up pretty similar stats. Now, who is this team? This team is Syracuse. Now, why do I bring up Syracuse? I bring up Syracuse because I want to give a little bit of love to my friends from Piscataway, that being Rutgers. Rutgers, and unfortunately, to my friends in Piscataway, I'm going to end up using you to prove my point about Michigan here, and I get it. I'm biased. I don't care. You're going to listen to me anyway because you tuned in, and that's what you want to hear. Rutgers started off the season with a 61-14 win over Temple. Now, I get it. You're asking, or you're looking at me like, Matt, come on, it was Temple. Like, Temple. Temple. Temple's really bad. Is Temple really all that bad? Well, I don't know. Let's see here. Is Temple? Well, they're 2-2. They've got wins over Akron and Wagner. Lost to Boston College. That kind of makes sense. Lost to Rutgers. That kind of makes sense. So, yeah, they're 2-2. Not a great team. Syracuse. Rutgers went to Syracuse, and only allowed them to score 7 points. Now, didn't I just say that Syracuse puts up 30 points a game? Wow, Rutgers has a great defense. They're holding some good offenses to low-scoring games. Rutgers then played against Delaware at home, which Delaware's pretty close proximity to New Jersey, so I feel like, puddle jumper, whatever. Anyway, Delaware, I get it, they're FCS, but they did what they needed to for 45-13 there. Okay. Rutgers is 3-0 for the first time since 2012. They started the season 3-0 for the first time since 2012. All right, now I get it. I'm kind of rambling at this point, and I'm going down a rabbit trail. That's what I said I was going to do. But the overall point I'm trying to make here is that these pundits and stuff like that on YouTube and the people, the Michigan fans in the message boards and all that, in the comments section, they're saying that Michigan, bench Cade McNamara. He played awful on Saturday. I don't think he played that bad. He certainly didn't play as bad as Graham Mertz. And that's the other thing here too, is that they're okay. So they're saying bench Cade McNamara, same old Harbaugh. Harbaugh doesn't know what he's doing. The worst about Harbaugh in that game is that they didn't adjust. So I will totally and completely level with you there. He did not adjust during that game. There were, I think, what was it? There were 4 straight 3-and-outs. There were 4 runs right up the middle. and they didn't work because Rutgers started packing the box. They started putting a lot more guys in the box to block the run because that's what Michigan wanted to do, and they made that fairly clear. Now, it's not a matter of just running the jet sweeps. It's not a matter of doing all these trick plays and stuff like that, running to the outsides, because they would still defend those. Those are still runs. They can still get into the backfield and stop them on the snap. So what had to be done? Well, they had to figure out some passing plays for sure, and obviously Cade McNamara struggled. I don't really know what happened to the passes over the middle. Those would have worked. The linebackers, I feel, if I remember correctly, Rutgers was blitzing on a lot of those plays, so there were plenty of opportunities to throw the ball over the middle. And the point that I'm making here is that I completely understand that Harbaugh did not call a perfect game in that second half, and Rutgers was just better. That's not the case here. I think Michigan really shot themselves in the foot here a couple of times. The point that I'm trying to make, though, is that everybody's like, "Oh, it's Rutgers. Rutgers sucks. It's whatever." We were so optimistic, and now we're just all kind of skeptical. Like, what's going to happen when they go into Madison and play Wisconsin? Well, I'm telling you what's going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to play football. Okay, and Michigan's going to do what Michigan's going to do. Wisconsin's going to do what Wisconsin's going to do, and they're going to play football, and that's going to be that. Now, that's a very obvious thing that I just said, and I'm realizing that as I said it. But people are forgetting that week to week, variables change. What was it? Greg Schiano, Rutgers' head coach, told his team coming into this game that they had a shot at doing something very real in the Big Ten this year. And they do. They absolutely do. There is no questioning that. They were 3-0. They pretty much dominated their non-conference games. I understand the offense was lacking against Syracuse. Syracuse, again, what was it? 17 points per game. That's what they allow. So there's two sides to every game. There's offense and there's defense. And a lot of the people I saw on the message boards were saying things like, bench Cade McNamara. McNamara played awful. Okay, well, as far as I know, you make the point that the quarterback is the most important player in the game. Excuse me. They made the point that the quarterback is the most important player in the game, and that's why Cade McNamara needs to be benched. We need to see J.J. McCarthy out there. We need to see consistent quarterback play. And I absolutely agree. I do not agree that Cade McNamara needs to be benched. I do not agree about that. But I agree about needing to see consistent quarterback play. But, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he threw a pick, did he? No, he didn't. He hasn't thrown a single interception all year long. Michigan is 4-0. He's thrown how many passes for how many yards and hasn't thrown a single interception? I think Graham Mertz threw 2 pick sixes in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I think he did. So the point is what is Michigan going to be able to do on offense against that Wisconsin defense? I don't know. Those same people were saying, well, a defense will never play well if they don't see good quarterback play out of their offense. And you're absolutely right. There is a synergy between the defense and the offense. If the offense plays well, defense plays well. If the defense plays well, then the offense will feel empowered. It can be simultaneously a vicious cycle and a synergistic circle, I guess you could say. You'd say the offense feeds off the defense feeds off the offense. And whoever can, if you're in a tailspin, whoever can break that cycle and pick everybody up, that's when you're going to start to see momentum come. And that's what happened to Michigan, is that through those first 4 drives and then through most of the second half, they were in a tailspin. What was going to happen? I mean, the defense was getting run over, and then the offense couldn't do anything. And it looked like there were a couple of points where Rutgers was really just going to take the game. I mean, it looked like Rutgers was going to win a couple of times there. Michigan's defense played some excellent red zone defense, holding to a field goal attempt, which Rutgers missed, and then holding, I think, 4 and out at one point. And then, what was it? The end of the game was the fumble. That was huge. That was a defense that played inspired football those last couple of minutes, despite the fact that the offense wasn't doing anything. That was huge. That's absolutely huge. And that's what you need. You need a mentally tough unit out on that field. And when one unit's down, the other unit needs to be able to pick up. And a lot of teams this year can't do that. A lot of teams aren't doing that. Look at Ohio State against Oregon. I mean, it took everything in C.J. Stroud to beat Oregon, and they didn't. I'm sorry, not to beat Oregon, but to try even be in a position where they could come back and beat Oregon, and they didn't do it. Look at Nebraska. Nebraska finds the most Nebraska way to lose against Michigan State, despite having that game essentially wrapped up with literal seconds left on the clock. But it just goes to show you that, you know, the game's not over until there are double zeros on the scoreboard. Yeah. So there needs to be there is a synergy between the offense and the defense. And if you're going to make the criticism that Michigan's offense won't be able to do anything against Wisconsin's defense, then you need to also look at Wisconsin's offense and ask yourself, is Graham Mertz really better than Cade McNamara? Is he? Because I think while big plays are essential to a football team success, I think consistency and taking care of the football is also equally as important. And is Graham Mertz doing that? No, he's not. Is Cade McNamara? Yeah. I would much rather Michigan go 3-and-out 4 times in a row with the ability to punt and put Wisconsin back into their own territory, deep into their own territory, than turn the ball over at the 50. Or turn the ball over and have it get returned for 6. Obviously. Because then Wisconsin's going to need the ball, or going to have the ball, and they're going to need to go the length of the field against Michigan's defense. And I don't care how upset Michigan's defense is that Michigan's offense isn't doing anything. They picked back up against Rutgers, a team that runs the spread option very well, I might add. Noah Vedral, yeah. Noah Vedral's a great quarterback. Yeah. I mean, if they can force Wisconsin to go to the length of the field, it doesn't matter. If it's a duel between Cade McNamara and Graham Mertz, I would much rather have a quarterback that was a game manager and could complete short passes, or at the very least take care of the football, than a quarterback who you don't know from pass to pass if he's going to throw an interception, if it's going to be returned for 6, what? Wisconsin was leading against Notre Dame early in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter! How many points did Notre Dame put up in that fourth quarter? 30? So my point is this. You Michigan fans that went from on top of the world, if they were ever going to beat Ohio State, this is the year to do it, because Michigan's going 11-0 to the end. You changed your tune drastically over nothing. You changed your tune drastically over nothing. Michigan, I'm not going to say that Michigan's just going to be fine if they don't change anything, because there's still the trademark Harbaugh doesn't adjust on the fly kind of stuff going on. But what I am going to say is that Michigan, or Rutgers, is a lot better than Michigan fans are giving them credit for. And frankly, that's insulting to Rutgers. That's insulting to Michigan. And that's going to be insulting to Ohio State when Rutgers beats them next week. Yeah, I said it. All right, with that ridiculousness, we're going to go ahead and get to the picks. Appreciate you guys sticking with me there. Oh, and I know there was a story out of Ohio State. The player, I can't remember his name. Maybe I can look it up here real quick. Just absolute disgrace. Haven't seen anything like it, obviously. Yeah, ex-Buckeyes linebacker Pope enters the transfer portal. Yeah, no kidding. Former Ohio State linebacker Kavagan? Wow. Kavon, I think it's Kavon. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. Kavon Pope, who was dismissed from the team Sunday following a sideline incident during Saturday's game against Akron, has entered the NCAA transfer portal. Yeah. I'm curious if anyone will pick him up after witnessing nonsense like that, because that's embarrassing. That is absolutely embarrassing. Is it indicative of a culture problem at Ohio State, though? So that's kind of the question. That's the question that I've been wondering. At least when Urban Meyer was head coach at Ohio State, if there were off the field issues, it didn't impact what was on the field. It's starting to impact what's on the field here. Akron's not a good football team. I have a lot more that I could go on and say about Michigan and Rutgers and stuff like that. I mean, and people will also say like, well, it doesn't matter because you keep making the excuse like, well, who so and so didn't play anybody. You can't from week to week say like Western Michigan is a good football team. They're currently 3-1. They beat Pittsburgh on the road. That's huge. Came back and were a little flat against San Jose State, but I don't care. They're 3-1. Northern Illinois beat the team that almost beat Clemson. And now I understand that Clemson is kind of in the toilet right now, but they weren't at the time. And then Washington. People like, as soon as Washington lost to Montana, people were like, well, yeah, it's Washington. Like, or not it's Washington, but like that Washington game is meaningless now. Like, no, it's not, guys. Washington just, we're down on their luck for a week for sure, and they made some really stupid mistakes. That's fine. But they're not, they're still Washington. Like, they were still going to do stuff. So, yeah, and then the very next week, after going 0-2 and getting blown out by Michigan, they beat Arkansas State 52-3. Now, it's Arkansas State. Yeah, and they beat them 52-3 like they should. They did exactly what they should do, like what any good team should do. And then they go and they beat Cal the very next week. They're 1-0 in Pac-12 play, guys. They're 1-0 in Pac-12 play. So you can't say from week to week, they didn't play anybody, or from week to week, this team's really good and this team's really good, and then, they didn't play anybody, and then when Michigan suffers against Rutgers, then say like, Rutgers didn't play anybody and we still suffered against them, so we're not going to be able to do anything against Wisconsin and all that, and yeah, you can't. They don't both fit. You can't make both arguments at once. You can't say that Michigan played a whole bunch of good teams and then Michigan didn't play anybody and it's just like every other year. That's not the case here. That's just not the case here. All right, moving on to the picks because I'm already going over. I was trying to get out of here in 30 minutes. We're 3 minutes till. Okay. Looking at some picks. Where did my Team Rivalry page go? Uh-oh. Oh, there it is. Hello. All right. I'm going to put this up here. Oops. See, I gotta transition things while I do this. There we go. All right, can I like move this so it's, I can, but then where am I? I can order this. I can move it up. Awesome. That's what I wanted to do. That's excellent. It's the little victories, guys. And then we're gonna hit transition. Booyah! Look at that. Ain't technology grand? All right. So we got some upcoming games this week, obviously. October 1st, that's Friday. We've got number 5 Iowa at Maryland. We can open this link in a new tab, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to real quick go through these because I want to get out of here pretty quickly. Got to play video games with the wife, guys. I mean, I can't talk to you all night. Number 5 Iowa at Maryland. Maryland's 4-0, guys. Isn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy that in the same year, Rutgers and Maryland are 4-0? And isn't it crazy if they had any other names like, I don't know, Wisconsin and Ohio State, you'd be like, yeah, that's normal. But because it's Rutgers and Maryland, everybody's like, oh, well, they're still terrible. Like, shut up. If Iowa struggles to Maryland here, do you think anyone's going to look at Maryland like, holy crap, that's a good team? No, they're going to look at Iowa like, yep, that's classic Kirk Ferentz's offense right there. Can't move the ball against anybody. They're slow. They're not going to beat good teams. Yada yada yada. If I hear people say that Maryland is actually a good team after this game, then I don't know what I'll be shocked. I will be shocked. Not enough love for Rutgers and Maryland. Not enough love. This is the 4th meeting between Iowa and Maryland. So far this season, Iowa has outscored their opponents 115-44. Maryland 149-57. Kirk Ferentz's record is 141-83, and he's 2-1 against Maryland. Will he go 2-2 this weekend? Well, gee, I don't know. Let's just find out what I have to say about it. I got to pull up the team rivalry picks too. I got it. There they are. Okay, all right. So I got the team rivalry picks here too. All right. So Hawkeyes at Terrapins. Are the Birds gonna pull it out? I don't think so. Maryland's 4-0 and they're excited. They're ready to go. I think that they're gonna do something special against Iowa because Iowa's offense is so slow. So I've got Maryland winning 28-24. The team rivalry projection is Iowa 24 to Maryland's 14. Not enough love for Maryland's offense. I'm gonna have to talk to the algorithm about that, and maybe we can get a better call for you next week. Sorry, Maryland. All right, what are we looking at next? Charlotte at Illinois. Oh my goodness, what happened to Illinois? What in the world happened to Illinois? I feel terrible for the Illini. Brett Bielema making his comeback into the Big Ten, and it's not going well. 1-3. They had that inexplicable win against Nebraska, who's just fallen apart as much as anyone could possibly fall apart in a single season. Scott Frost, I think, will be either on the hot seat or fired by season's end. Probably just after, because it's very difficult to do these things mid-season. Illinois, however, I think they're in a tailspin. I mean, they had a competitive game against Purdue. Purdue's been looking good. I don't think Purdue is really all that bad this season. I mean, they're certainly not like fantastic or anything, but yeah, I mean, they're not bad. That game they won 13-9 over Illinois. I think Illinois is just struggling. And I think it's, first coach jitters and all that, and that sucks for them. But what really sucks is that I'm going to have them losing to Charlotte 20-17. Reason being is because while I think Illinois is going to have the bigger players on defense, Charlotte's going to have a little bit of a, I don't know, not a chip on their shoulder necessarily, but they're going to be excited. They're 3-1, 1-0 in their conference. I get that's Conference USA. I don't really care. Illinois is down. They'll have a chance to beat a Big Ten team. Do you think that they're going to be excited? I think that they'll be excited. So that's why I'm calling them to win. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Ohio State at Rutgers. Let's look at that game. Boom. All right, so the Scarlet and Gray go to the Scarlet Knights. Buckeyes at the Scarlet Knights. So Ohio State. Good Lord, what's going on with Ohio State these days? Ohio State's defense, it's Akron. And you can't say they haven't played anybody. Are you kidding me? You're really going to make my own argument against me, even though it's going to completely contradict what I said earlier? Well, first off, it's not. Because Akron, who do they beat? They're 1-3 in the MAC, so they're not even good by MAC standards. Now, no disrespect to my friends in the MAC, but they beat the Bryant Bulldogs. I've never heard of the Bryant Bulldogs before, and they only beat them 35-14. Other than that, they lost to Auburn 60-10. They lost to Temple, who Syracuse beat. Who Rutgers beat. Rutgers beat Temple, but not Akron. And then they lost to Ohio State. So, is Akron weak? Yes, Akron's weak. Okay, did they have a shot going into Ohio State to upset the Buckeyes? No, they didn't. Did they still put up 7 points against them? Yes, they did, and they did it early, and they had the lead. Now, the line on this game right now is Ohio State over Rutgers by about 15 points. But I want to point something out real quick. First off, Rutgers just went to Michigan, and we just talked about that. I think Michigan is better than what they played, or than how they played against Rutgers. I think Rutgers exposed some things, but Michigan was still able to stop them because they were a mature, level-headed team on defense anyway towards the end of the game. I think Rutgers is going to be upset. And I think that they're going to have, they have home field advantage, and that's something that they didn't have against Michigan. So I think that they've got that one extra step towards potentially finding some sort of an upset. Now, is Ohio State going to be a lot more difficult to upset? Right now, I would say yes. Just based on the caliber of team that Rutgers or that Ohio State is, who they've lost to, who they've beaten. They haven't really beaten anybody, but they did lose a close game to Oregon, and Oregon's been looking good lately. So I'll just give that to them. That's fine. Early on when it looked like Ohio State's dominant win at Minnesota was going to mean something, Minnesota then goes and loses to Bowling Green loses to Bowling Green as a 30-point favorite. Just stop. PJ Fleck is gone after this season. I'm calling it now. Minnesota is where coaches go to stop coaching. Minnesota is where coaches go to die. That's their careers anyway. So that game doesn't really mean anything anymore. And then Oregon, Oregon's doing okay. Tulsa, the game against Tulsa's Tulsa. I mean, Tulsa put up a good fight, but Tulsa's Tulsa. And then Akron. So if I were to make the argument that Ohio State hasn't played anybody, which I've made that argument many times on this show, I've said Michigan State hasn't played anybody. Ohio State hasn't played anybody. Penn State played Wisconsin, and then Wisconsin goes and gets blown out 41-13. I believe that it is okay to make the claim that such and such team hasn't played anybody. And I get it from week to week, whatever, you're playing a different team, emotions run high, whatever. But the point is, weak teams are weak teams. And if you struggle against weak teams, then there's something wrong. Michigan didn't struggle against a weak team. Weaker, maybe. If Michigan had done that against Ohio State, they probably would have lost. But as I said, if Michigan had done that against Ohio State and won, do you think anyone would be upset? No, they wouldn't be. Now, I get it. It's completely different. It's Ohio State versus Rutgers. Rutgers was the one they struggled against, not Ohio State. But Rutgers coming into that game had a better record than Ohio State. And at the time, it was against pretty similar caliber opponents. Like if you match up like Syracuse versus Tulsa or Temple and Akron, Delaware and Oregon, there's no comparison. So Ohio State gets the edge. But the other two opponents, they're fairly similar. So this particular game, though, I think Rutgers is going to be a little on edge. I think that they're going to want it. I think that they're going to want it real bad. And I think that Ohio State clearly has some issues off the field, given what just happened with Pope there. So with that being said, here, I'm going to move this up a little bit so that, there we go. With that being said, I'm going to go, I'm going to throw any caution to the wind and just do what my heart is telling me to. And I'm going to put some support behind Rutgers. Now, I'm calling it now. My call is that it's going to be Rutgers 34-28. At the end of this game, if Rutgers wins or holds it close, then anyone who said anything about Michigan struggling against Rutgers, you got nothing. Okay? On Sunday, if we're coming into Sunday and Rutgers is 4-1, it's a whole different story. It's a whole different story. Now, obviously, it's already a whole different story because this game's at 3:30. Michigan and Wisconsin is at noon. And so we'll already know whether or not Michigan's going to beat Wisconsin, by the time this game starts. But, let's say Michigan beats Wisconsin. Then the argument is going to be, well, Wisconsin sucks. They lost 41-13 against Notre Dame. Well, Notre Dame seems to be finding ways to win games this year. So who knows? Who knows what they're really about? They've certainly struggled, but they're also 4-0. Who knows? But then on the cherry on top would then be if Rutgers ends up beating Ohio State. And if that's the case, then Michigan fans have nothing to worry about. Because Rutgers is good. And I firmly believe it. And I think they'll beat Ohio State 34-28. Just out of sheer willpower. All right, moving on, because I took way too long on calling that game. We're gonna fly through these next couple of games if I can find. Indiana at Penn State. All right, so Penn State's 4-0. Indiana's 2-2. Definitely not looking too good for the Hoosiers this season. Not really sure why. They were supposed to have a pretty good season this year. If I'm not mistaken, I think a lot of pundits said that Indiana should be picking up where they left off from 2020, but that's just not the case here, unfortunately, for the Hoosiers. I think Penn State's going to get their revenge victory. I don't necessarily think it's going to be as big of a disparity between them as other people think. The current line is, let's see here. The current line is Penn State by 12. That's 2 scores. It's really not that bad. It's not even a full 2 scores. It's not 2 touchdowns. It's more like a touchdown and 2 field goals, I guess. Well, 2.5. Well, field goal and a safety. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, Indiana, they played Western Kentucky and almost lost. They played Cincinnati, however, and were leading significantly through a lot of that game and then imploded. Penn State, on the other hand, beat Auburn, but what has Auburn done? What has Auburn done? I just said we were going to go quickly through this game, and now I'm looking at Auburn's schedule. Let's see. Auburn beat Alabama State 62-0. They beat Akron 60-10. Meh. They beat Georgia State by 10. They beat Georgia State 34-24. So I don't think Auburn's actually as good as other people think that they are. So whatever. I'm not going to take anything away from the Nittany Lions. I just think that Indiana's going to do a bit better in this game. I'm getting them to cover anyway. But Penn State with the victory, 31-28 over the Hoosiers. Moving right along to Western Kentucky at Michigan State. Western Kentucky making their way around the Big Ten. Where are they? Here we are. All right. So, oops, I forgot to hit transition. There we go. I moved it up so that you didn't have to see the URL bar at the top, but then I didn't hit transition. Okay, so Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. 1-2, 0-1 in their conference, coming to Michigan State, 4-0, 2-0. Boy, did Michigan State get bailed out against Nebraska. Boy, oh boy, did Nebraska bail them out. Nebraska has the lead by 7 with, 30-ish seconds to go. I'm fairly certain it was less than a minute, excuse me. And just the awesome punt return. I think that was Jaden Reed, I want to say. Can't remember. Sorry if I got that wrong. Awesome punt return, and then the interception in overtime to seal it. Goodness gracious, what a heartbreaking loss for Nebraska, but it was totally and completely their fault. Totally and completely. Michigan State scoring 141 points this season, holding their opponents to 72. What's the current line here? I think the current line's actually not that high. So it's Michigan State by 10.5. Western Kentucky's putting up 41 points a game, and Michigan State's defense is pretty good so far. I would say they haven't played anybody, but they haven't. What did Miami do the week after they played them? I think they beat somebody pretty soundly, but then so they played Central Colorado State? No, Central Connecticut. Okay, they played Central Connecticut. Whatever. I'm pretty sure the local high school team here could beat Central Connecticut. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So, am I going to say Michigan State hasn't played anybody? Yeah, you're right. I am going to say that. They haven't played anybody, okay? And they almost lost to Nebraska. Nebraska had something kind of special going on in Norman. I don't really know what happened. That was pretty inspired football. I know Oklahoma, people are a little on the fence about them. Are they really a top 4 team in the nation? I don't think that they are. They've been struggling lately. I don't know what they did this last week. I'm not paying attention to Big 12 football because, what's the point? SEC light football. But all that's to say that I still think that Michigan State hasn't truly been tested. Okay, and I get it. Miami was ranked when they played them. They went on the road. I'm not saying that a win over a ranked team isn't impressive. I'm just saying, it was no Rutgers. No, I am saying that, Michigan State, it's difficult to be 4-0. It's difficult to be 4-0 in college football, period, especially in the Big Ten. But, if you're 4-0 against teams like Northwestern, who's not very good, Youngstown State, who's Youngstown State, Miami, the U, who's, I don't know what they're doing. They beat Central Connecticut. Great job. And then Nebraska, who they didn't really beat Nebraska as much as Nebraska just decided to lose. So there's that. They're allowing 400 yards of offense per game. They're only allowing 18 points per game, so they're letting other teams get into the red zone, but not letting them score. That's, great job, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give Michigan State the victory just because I think they'll be stronger. But don't underestimate the Hilltoppers offense. Michigan State 40-21. What does Team Rivalry say? I completely forgot to call their call on the last couple of games. My bad. Michigan State 35, Western Kentucky 0. All right, we got to have a talk with the people who run in the algorithm at Team Rivalry because something's broken. Give me a break. Penn State 35, Indiana 9. No. Ohio State 42, Rutgers 14. Whatever. Charlotte 17, Illinois 14. Hey, both calling the upset. I like it. Did I call anybody else just yet? No, not yet. All right, moving right along. Northwestern at Nebraska. I'm not going to talk about that. There is no point in talking about that. No offense to our friends in Lincoln or Evansville, I think. Nebraska 24-14. Team Rivalry is calling. Northwestern 21-17. Man, there's going to be an interesting. It's going to be interesting to see who is more accurate with these calls because this is different. All right, now for our game of the week, we're looking at Michigan at Wisconsin. Somewhere. There it is. Looking at Michigan at Wisconsin, I realized as I'm pulling this up that I did not actually make a pick. So I'm going to do that on the fly here without looking at the Team Rivalry pick. All right, Michigan number 14, 4-0, 1-0 in the Big Ten. Wisconsin Badgers, a lowly 1-2, 0-1. Oh, but they're much better than their record suggests. Really, are they? Well, let's just take a quick gander at that record and see what that record's really all about. Wisconsin, 1-2, 0-1 in conference. They lost to Penn State at home, 16-10, because the offense couldn't do anything. Then they beat Eastern Michigan 34-7. The fact that they allowed 7 points against Eastern Michigan is just shocking to me. And then Notre Dame obviously pulled away in the fourth quarter by a lot. Let's see. Notre Dame scored. That would have been 31 points in the fourth quarter because it was 13-10 going into the fourth quarter, I'm pretty sure. But computer's going to freeze on me, so. Yep, so that's fine. Points per game, Michigan scoring 40 points per game, Wisconsin scoring 19. Points allowed, Michigan's allowing 11, Wisconsin's allowing 21. Obviously, that's not the whole story for the defense, but, I mean, the points on the board is what matters. That's another thing. What is Michigan going to be able to do against that great Wisconsin Badgers defense? That's, if you look just at the defensive statistics, they're doing really well. I mean, they're holding well against the run. They're holding teams, they're holding teams back for sure. It's a good defense, but at the end of the day, it's the points on the board that matter. Okay, and so it doesn't matter if your defense is, the best defense you've ever had, or if they're the 86 Bears or something like that. Sorry, I'm not from Illinois. I don't know, and I'm not an NFL fan. It doesn't matter if you have the best defense in the world if your quarterback's going out there and throwing back-to-back pick sixes. Okay? It's bad. At the end of the day, it's the points that matter. And if Michigan gets the turnovers, which I think they will, because there's no reason to suggest that Graham Mertz is just going to stop throwing interceptions unless he gets benched, and then you've got the second quarterback jitters going on there. So I think Michigan's going to get some turnovers here. I think Wisconsin's going to not implode necessarily, but I think they're going to play tough because it's the start of the conference season. Although they're already 0-1 in the conference and they're 1-2 overall, maybe they'll be a little bit, I don't know, out of it. Obviously, their losses are against two currently good teams. I say currently, and I also put an asterisk on this because Penn State beat an Auburn team, and everybody's freaking out about it, but Auburn really hasn't done anything. Auburn beat a couple of really lowly teams and then struggled against another lowly team. And they also almost beat Penn State. So you've got an Auburn team that hasn't really played anybody except for Penn State, and they still almost beat Penn State. So I don't know that Auburn's actually that good. I think that they're just good enough to beat the bad competition and then sort of kind of almost beat good competition. Maybe. And the thing is maybe. I mean, who has Penn State played? Penn State has played... Let's just open that up real quick. Ooh, pushing 10 o'clock. I got to go. Oh, my goodness. It's 50 minutes. Yeah, I got to go. Penn State has played Ball State and Villanova, other than Wisconsin and Auburn. So Ball State, they won 44-13, and then Villanova, they allowed 17 points, which is just beyond me. Villanova is not even FBS in football. So I think Michigan will get some turnovers. I think Michigan's gonna struggle on offense otherwise. So it'll be a slugfest early on, but as the game goes on, I think Graham Mertz is going to need to throw the ball. And I think that he's not going to be able to do it. I don't think Wisconsin really doesn't have the running back right now that they used to have. They used to have that running back carousel. I think that's running back corral, whatever. The running back room at Wisconsin used to be packed. Monty Ball, Melvin Gordon, a couple of others that I'm blanking on right now, but they used to be packed there, and they're just not right now. They're not this season. It's not the same level of production. Michigan, however, has 3 backs that are all doing phenomenally well. If Michigan doesn't play not to lose, then this could be a very good day for Michigan. As it stands, I think that it's still probably going to be a close game, but I've got Michigan to win. And I'm going to call Michigan 24, Wisconsin 17. Michigan 24 and Wisconsin 17. And the team rivalry call is Michigan 24, Wisconsin 21. Boom. So we pretty much agree on that one. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry if I upset any of you. Such is life. Did I say thanks for tuning in? Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back at you next week with some more recap and picks and all that. And yeah, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.